Italian Ways, On and Off the Rails from Milano to Palermo, is by Tim Parks, is a 2013 travel book. I didn't get this book out from the library. My wife did, Janine, Jaja, my little Austrian princess, but that's a little TMI, and she's not actually Austrian. I just like to call her Jaja. TMI. Because, yeah, hey, Italy, and a travel book on Italy. I wonder what might be coming up in my future. And Jaja is completely on the research thing. So I've been sucked into the vortex. And of course, I want to learn about Italy too. And the idea of kind of learning a bit about Italy, modern Italy through the railway system, kind of like traveling on the railway. And we didn't plan to, like, rent a car or anything like that. That appealed to me. That appealed to me as something to do. So I thought, hey, I'd pick up this book, and it was going to be all the, trips basically kind of going. Here, I'll read you what it says in the front of, now in his first Italian travelogue in a decade, Tim Parks delivers a charming and funny portrait of Italian ways by riding its trains from Verona to Milan, Rome to Palermo, and right down to the heel of Italy. Italian Ways explores how trains helped build Italy and how their development reflects Italians' sense of themselves, from Garibaldi to Mussolini to Berlusconi and beyond. Most of all, Italian Ways is an entertaining attempt to capture the essence of modern Italy. As Parks writes, to see the country by train is to consider the crux of the essential Italian dilemma. Is Italy part of the modern world or not? And so, yes, that's Italian Ways, which, let's start out here recently at the beginning, because you might want to get off right now, get off this train right now. I didn't finish the book. I got this far through. I got this far through the book. At which point my frustrations and my just general sense of this book is not freaking going anywhere overcame me, and after complaining most bitterly to Jaja, I started skimming. And for me, some people are able to skim. My wife is able to kind of skim and like, oh, okay, this part doesn't interest me and I can skip over. I am cursed with a linear mind, a very limited linear mind, where I have to actually read all the words. I have to get the flow through of what the author's intent. And if I get to the point where I start to skim, which is what I started doing there, if I just start flipping pages at random, and then finally going and reading the epilogue at the very end, that means I didn't finish the book. I did not read this book all the way through. I have not, whatever contract that I and the author have, for me, it was broken. And I did not finish this book. But this being said, let me introduce my policy now. I'm still going to review books like this, because I think the fact that I couldn't finish this book, is something that's worth talking about. But I'd like to put that up front, that I don't really know if this book suddenly pivoted around and was amazing at the end. Well, at the very end I can, the epilogue, which seemed like more of the same, I can say, but there's a hunk in there I didn't read, so I don't know. It's like I left the movie at like, at 1:15, and I came back just for the little climax scene at the end, but that was maybe epilogue at the end, the shawarma scene at the end. So yes, keeping that in mind, yes, so I read you the description of the book. It says it's published in 2013, but really, as he says in the preface, he's up front. This started out as a Granta article, which he just like, wow, I get to write about the trains in Italy. And it's like, I love this. And he ended up with 120 pages, of which Granta magazine apparently just published, a fragment of, and he just started keeping notes. And indeed, this book is set over a couple of different time periods, 2005, 2007 to 2010, and then 2012. So it's very fragmented that way. And let me start off with the good parts of this book. Tim Parks is a good writer. He's a good observer of people. it was interesting to like be reading about the book and like just kind of modern Italian sensibilities. And it was one of these things of like, okay, like being like alone on a train, like people wanting to be alone seemed to be something that was slightly foreign to Italians. He talks about getting onto an empty train and going, I can sit here and I can read my book. And then one Italian guy shows up. And where does that Italian guy come? He comes right up to where Tim Parks is, parks himself down and starts talking to him. And, he's like, they're chatting and he goes away. And so Tim Parks kind of goes, okay, here's my chance. And he goes off to a different part of the train. And the Italian guy comes back and goes, and he's looking around going, where'd my bag go? Where'd my bag? It's like, we're in a different part of the train. And the Italian guy's like, why did you move? I wanted to be alone. And the Italian guy just gives him this look like, what's up with you, dude? And he leaves. And this book is full of Italian life, and everyone is talking to each other. And while, they still have, everyone's got like, we're in the modern age. Everyone's got their mobile phones. It's like they're all talking on their phones at full volume. And it's like, wow, okay. So my note to myself is if like I'm going to Italy and I'm going to be riding the trains, it's like, I'm not going to be able to read my book on the train because I'm a solitary reader, and I can have like something, maybe a little bit of kind of like wordless music to kind of blot out a bit. But I find even like I'm in Victoria, Canada, and even like the times that I do ride the bus here, I find a lot of times if it's a super crowded bus, it's hard to read my book and the whatever book I'm reading. So So yeah, he's really good. And I mean, he understands the language, so he can kind of report on all the conversations that are going on about him, which is, is kind of a very privileged place to be in like in a foreign country. And this is something I'm going to scramble to pick up probably, cause it'll be sometime next year or whatever, Traveler's Italian enough to get by of like, where's the bathroom? Or I'm allergic to fish. Don't give me fish. All that, all the crucial bits. I need to go to the bathroom and don't feed me this or I'll die. All that sort of stuff. So he's really good at kind of like observing all the people and getting the characters. There's interesting sections here on the Italian railway system and how, it was crucial to unifying the country, which as a Canadian, that's a big thing because one of our great Canadian stories that we tell ourselves, probably the myth, but also probably kernel of truth, is how our railway system indeed unified our country, or brought, hooked together all the provinces, so we didn't probably like BC and Alberta and all that didn't fall off and become part of the United States because we laid down our tracks. I'm saying as I guess what you would call the settler country, the settler part of Canadian history, and I'm sure there's other viewpoints out there of people maybe who were here before who not so great about the freaking train system, making sure that Europeans came over and colonized the place, but be that as it may. But yeah, and so also getting into that whole thing of like, well, the Italian railway system is sort of messed up and weird like it is because it had to figure out all the political situations and please everyone. And so there's all these like multiple different railway systems with multiple different timetables and different ways of doing ticketing. And he goes into like, it's just like, just how confusing and maddening all this is. And even with the new technology, it's still maddening and confusing. And there's still the old ticket guys like, I don't want your electronic bullshit. I want a printed ticket and, sort of all that stuff, which was at the beginning entertaining, was mildly entertaining. He is like, kind of the Nebish professor, he teaches, it sounds like he teaches English, or he teaches in an Italian university. And so it's like, he's the kind of the Nebish professor. I thought he was an okay kind of travel companion. He gets irritated by stuff. Yeah. As it goes along though, we just do that over and over again. I think it's maybe the fragmented part of this is that it's just, this book isn't a whole book. This is me taking a trip, complaining. Stop. Me taking a trip, complaining. Stop. Me taking a trip, complaining. And it's like, I think there's like 7 trips in here, and they're all the same goddamn thing of I took a trip. Oh, here's all the crappy stuff that happened. Oh, I took a trip. Here's all the crappy stuff. No one goes anywhere. This is not a book. This is not a book. This is a collection of complaints and things that make me go and just stresses me out as someone who's like contemplating going to Italy. It's just like, I don't want to take the train anymore. And you know, so he becomes more and more irritating because he just becomes this complainer guy, which was, you know, it's like a raconteur. And when he tells you one amusing story about like, oh, those, you know, wacky Italians, it's fine. But after the 20th fucking story about complaining about the wacky Italian guys, you're like, go away and stop telling me all these terrible things about Italy because I'm going to go there and I want to enjoy myself. And this book stressed me out and bored me. And there's a section in here about, about labor disputes, about the union. And I swear to God, it's probably because my patience was wearing thin. It just goes on and goes on and goes on. It's like, look, I'm a union. I'm union proud guy here. And if I got a book that had this much stuff on my own union, stuff that was talking about my own livelihood, I would still be bored and would just give up and would say, too long, didn't read. And in the end, too long, didn't read and frustrated me and okay. And look, this author, whatever his intent, I missed it because, you know why I can tell I missed it? Because freaking dedication of this book is for all those who love to read on trains. I love to read on trains. I took a train across Canada and I read a lot on that train. And this is not, for me, this reader is not a book for me. Oh my freaking God. Okay. I think I got myself a little worked up there. It was interesting. I did go on Goodreads because you always want to go on Goodreads and justify and validate your own opinion and say, yes, I was right. And it's like, yes, there are people who feel like me about this. There are other people who like obviously love Tim Parks, love his work, know his personality, and like, oh, I get another chance to be with Tim Parks, and they got to enjoy him. So yeah, those people have an opinion. And I have mine! Well, that was very purging. I hope that was good for you as well. More videos later.